Our next guest is Dr. Lacy Hunt, an internationally known economist and author. And this is Dr. Hunt's first time on the George Jarkesy Show. We want to welcome you to the show.
Nice to be with you, George.
Many people think that China is this rising global star. But economically speaking, what do you think of this?
Well, I think the Chinese economy is much more fragile, and it's subject to quick reversal in fortune. In fact, there was a study published by the World Bank and a leading Chinese think tank, which they said basically the same thing, that the Chinese structure is much more vulnerable. First of all, if you look at Chinese debt, government debt, including the debt in the government-owned enterprises. So if you look at this comprehensive measure of debt, it's about 166% of GDP. Gross government debt in the United States about 102, 103% of GDP. They have a much higher debt ratio than we do, and in the process of taking on all this debt, they've created a highly malstructured economy. About 70% of their GDP is in investment, only 30% is in consumer spending, and a lot of this investment was really highly unproductive or counterproductive. The bottom line is that this structure of GDP, top-heavy in investment, is really not sustainable. The banks that are controlled by the government made the loans to finance it. Interest is not being paid, and that's creating a highly unstable situation. China is deteriorating. Their structure is faulty, and frankly, it's one of the reasons why the situation is deteriorating in Europe and why economic conditions in the United States are not that good.
Dr. Hunt, this coast waned a lot. Is a lot of this due to the fact that the capital that's allocated is not being allocated by the market, but it's being allocated by, who knows whose brother-in-law in the party, et cetera, et cetera?
It's a major problem. Government entities are not in a position to allocate capital as nearly as efficiently as the private sector, and there's a great deal of empirical research, scientific research, that indicates that these type of structures ultimately failed. I think if you look at some of the numbers that are the least unreliable, all the numbers out of China are unreliable, but some of them are less unreliable. I think that there's a very clear current deterioration in economic activity. Let me just walk you through the problem they have. As I said, investment spending is about 70% of GDP and consumer spending is 30%. Well, they need to reverse that, but that's virtually impossible to do. They've created a system that is very difficult to reorder.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much, Dr. Lacy Hunt, for being on the George Jarkesy Show, and we'd like to have you back again sometime, and we appreciate your insights.
Thank you, George. All the best.